An anthropologist proposed a game to children of an African tribe. He put a basket of fruit near a tree and told the children that the first one to reach the fruit would win them all. When he told them to run, they all took each other's hand and ran together, then sat together enjoying the fruit. When asked why they ran like that, they said, Ubuntu. How can one of us be happy if all the others are sad? Ubuntu is a philosophy of African tribes that can be summed up as I am because we are. Working with communities and schools to improve the lives of all children. Parents for Public Schools of Jackson.
Good afternoon, great afternoon. It's so wonderful to see everyone here for our culminating lunch bunch this year. My name is Freddrick Nolan, and I have the honor of serving as your moderator today. I am a board member of Parents for Public Schools Lunch Bunch, and I bring you greetings. Lunch Bunch meets on the first Wednesday of every month at 11:45, except in January. We invite you to join us and bring your friends. And for those who may not be familiar with Parents for Public Schools of Jackson, the organization was founded in Jackson in 1989. Our work centers around supporting parents as partners with the school in the education of their children, ensuring that all children have access to quality teaching and learning, as well as engaging the public in active support of our public schools. PPSJ has adopted a philosophy from Africa called Ubuntu. At its core, Ubuntu is described as I am because we are. We want to take this opportunity to thank the Junior League of Jackson for supporting this month's lunch bunch of Jackson Public Schools. We'd like to take this time to recognize our special guests. Some include our members of our PPS Board of Directors, also any members of JPS's executive support team. We'd also like to recognize any of our PPSJ P3 parents. This is a group of parents who are committed to promoting parent engagement in schools, and also any graduates from the PPSJ Parent Leadership Institute, better known as PLI. Finally, our wonderful Executive Director of Parents for Public Schools, Ms. Carolyn Jolivet, and her wonderful team that help organize and make things run in the background, and any other volunteers. Moving right along, we're delighted to have with us this morning Dr. Freddrick Murray, our Interim Superintendent of the Jackson Public School District. He's back with us to give us an update on increasing academic performance and achievement, providing safe school environments, as well as maintaining a fiscal integrity and accountability of resources. Dr. Murray will also discuss how he plans to lead the Jackson Public School District during academic year 2017-18. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Freddrick Murray.
It's always a pleasure to speak with at the lunch bunch and to this group. Ms. Jolivet and Parents for Public Schools is a tremendous partner in our district, and we really value the work that you all do in the community. It truly adds value. As we work with the district, we want to be sure that we're adding value and that we're helping to provide a solution. And so we appreciate you for helping to provide a solution and being an advocate, true advocate for children. This is the third lunch bunch that I've participated in this year since becoming the interim superintendent, and we've evolved. Each one brings new information, a new status, and so today, again, we just want to spend some time providing an update as to where we are. We always enjoy the opportunity to engage the community and give you the facts as it relates to things that are going on in our district. As you can remember, in November, we came before you and we talked about securing approval of the corrective action plan. At that time, we had not received approval from MDE. We have done that, and we are moving progressively forward. We were also about to move into an investigative audit. MDE was preparing to come in and do an investigative audit on all aspects of our district. They have been in our district for months, and we are working with them in lockstep, making sure that they have what they need in order to conduct that investigative audit. We feel confident that it'll be complete in coming months, and then we'll receive feedback from that audit. And then the biggest piece is focusing on our academic improvement. We are currently, it's no secret that we are currently rated an F district, and the law is clear as it relates to those districts that are rated F. A school or a district that's rated F 2 years in a row can be taken over by the state, the entire district, individual schools. So it's important for us not to be in that space, and we've been working very hard to make sure that that's not happening. You know, we're looking at the data, not just from the mouth of the interim superintendent, but the actual data has shown us that we're making some improvements. During our STAR testing, which is our universal screener, the state requires us to screen our students at different intervals throughout the year. We screen at the beginning of the year, in January, and then at the end of the school year. It progress monitors our students to show us where our students are. In January, our students, from a growth standpoint, were nearly at or above the percentage that we were at the end of last year. So at mid-year, we had already made the same amount of growth that we made the entire year of last school year. So I think that is a testament to the work that's happening in our schools, addressing the needs of our students, Tier 1, just the regular teaching, and also those students in Tier 2 and Tier 3 with challenges. Our goals have been for the past few years to increase performance and achievement, to increase average daily attendance, and to attract and retain highly qualified teachers. We've done extensive work with our board in an effort to make a shift, to not necessarily take anything off the table, but to shift our focus as it relates to goals. As we move into next year, our goals will look a little different. Of course, always we'll increase performance. That's academic performance is always at the center of what we do. That's our business. That's the work that we'll continue to do. Provide a safe school and climate. We thought that was important to not just assume that we're going to do that. We thought it was important that everyone understands that's what we're about safe and orderly schools. MDE, a lot of that was in our cap about making sure that our schools are safe and orderly. So we felt it necessary to make sure that that was a key goal, that everyone that sees Jackson Public Schools in print, that come into our district, they know that that's what we're about. And then with any organization, we have to maintain fiscal integrity and accountability, increase daily attendance, and attract and retain teachers. All those things are still important, but they will fall under some of our broader goals as we move forward. So you'll start to hear that language, that shift in the goals, and we think that will better help us align the work that we will do moving forward. You don't just improve academically by happenstance. There are some specific things that you have to put in place. We have 2,000 teachers in our district, 2,000 certified teachers. The data shows that 50% of those teachers are novice teachers, meaning they've only been in the field 0 to 3 years. So they may be straight out of college, they may be doing this as a second career, they may be alternate route, but that's the reality in Jackson. If any of you all are teachers or have been in any job, you know the first 3 years of that job could kind of be a challenge. You're still learning. You're learning how to navigate. You're learning those things, the systems, how to plan. Not that you're not a good teacher, but it's just the learning curve that exists. Over the past 5 years, we have not had a curriculum department, and we have not had a professional development department. The former administration made a decision to go in a different direction. But we felt from conversation and from collaboration, listening to our teachers, we felt that when you have 1,000 teachers that are new to the field, they need to be supported. We can't wait until, a conference comes up in California or New York or on the coast. We have to have the capacity within our district to help our people improve, and we have to have that daily. Thus, we've made some changes that you will see in place next year. Been board approved. We've built out our curriculum department. We have about 20 people that will lead teachers that will be working with teachers. We have teacher mentors that are retired teachers that will be working with teachers. We've also hired an executive director of professional development who will be working with 2 specialists and also an instructional person to provide on-the-ground professional development for teachers on a regular basis. So if there's a need at Callaway or Forest Hill or Galloway or Isabel, there's someone who can put together a professional development, can respond to the needs of our teachers. It's going to be critical to improvement because, again, you have to improve the teacher corps if you're going to improve the academic achievement of our students. The next thing you will see, our district will look different next year as it relates to our organizational structure. I've been in Jackson 20 plus years, and since I've been in the district, we've had elementary, middle school, high school. And that's kind of been the way we did our work. If you had an issue with an elementary school, then you would contact the elementary division. If it were middle school, you'd go to middle school. But we felt through looking at the research, looking at data that's out there on large urban school districts, that the structure of your system can create barriers for you or it can create opportunities. And so we are restructuring our district, or have restructured our district. We will have 4 what we call area superintendents. Area superintendent will not be just responsible for a division, but everything in that area they will be responsible for. So area 3, the linear feeder pattern will be within area 3. That area superintendent will have total control of that feeder pattern. They'll have the resources that are needed, as opposed to having 20 specialists that respond all across the district. They'll have 4 or 5 individuals that will work within their feeder pattern that can provide the support. And what that does is it provides a different level of accountability. If I have 20 individuals in a curriculum department and we have 60 schools, then it's easy to say, we got 60 schools. I mean, I'm support over here, support over there, but we can better kind of define the work if everyone has a group of schools and they're accountable. Just as the schools are accountable, these support people will be aligned to these feeder patterns and be just as responsible as the schools. So for the actual schools, it won't look a lot different. The reporting mechanism will be different. But for the schools, there won't be major changes. But from a central office standpoint, it will look dramatically different. We will have what we call principal coaches. Every feeder pattern will have a principal coach that's kind of on the ground that can provide support to these different feeder patterns. We know that this model works, has been used in districts all across the country, but when you look just at parents of public schools, their intense focus on the linear feeder pattern has added value. Some more value in some cases than other feeder patterns that don't have that kind of support. And so what we do now when we engage community stakeholders, when we go and talk to individuals about a grant, we can say, well, we have a specific feeder pattern that we want you to support. Not a school in South Jackson, school in North Jackson, without any rhyme or reason, but specifically we want you to work with this school and this feeder pattern so that we can be better prepared. The vertical alignment can be there. We can work with teachers if in kindergarten, first, second, third grade, we start having specific issues with specific areas like measurements or whatever. We know in that feeder pattern, we can target that support. All of our resource people will be assigned. Exceptional ed, curriculum, operations, they will be assigned to a specific feeder pattern and provide that support and be a part of that team, and the accountability will be there for those individuals. This is a major paradigm shift for our district. We've worked with Mississippi School Board Association. We've had collaboration with other outside groups, and we've not just made this decision in isolation. We've looked at our district, and you hear it. District is too large. We need to do this. We need to do that. So we've listened to that, and we've heard the voices of our teachers about support, and we've responded. These efforts will put us on a trajectory of improvement. Again, we still have a ways to go. We still have teacher shortage, which is something that we're working with colleges and universities across the state, across the country to improve, but that's a national issue. I talked to you all before about the educators that are coming out of the colleges and universities, which is minimal compared to the number of gaps we have across this state. But what our teachers say to us, because we do exit interviews when teachers leave, they don't leave because of money. They don't leave because of behavior in many cases. They leave because they did not feel that they were equipped to do the work. And that's on us. We should be able to train our people up, and these systems like this allow us to do that. You can't just make this stuff up as you go. You have to have systems in place to support those people in the organization. And so this organizational shift, we think, will help us better manage our district and help us get the kind of results that we know we can, because our children are brilliant. They are. Again, they just have to have the opportunity. We have to provide the support for them at the early years so that when they come to school, they are just as prepared as our neighboring students. When people ask all the time about why are scores like this here 5 miles away, it's because of the exposure in many cases and the experiences that students have prior to coming to school. And so we can't necessarily change the demographic, but we can do things as a system to better prepare our students for their educational career. I'll entertain questions, but I just want to address one more thing. We are facing budgetary issues. That's another thing that we have to deal with. This year, the current school year, we've had to reduce our budget by over $1 million in the school year. We started with a certain amount budget, and we've been cut by $1 million. Next year, it's already been projected through the information that we get, projection numbers that we get from MDEs, that will be cut by $5 million less than we have this year. So, with that, there are going to be a lot of changes. There are going to be some tough decisions that have to be made as it relates to personnel, programs, schools, facilities, but we will not sacrifice the classroom. So that will be at the core of what we do. Everything that we do will be focused on the teaching and learning. But that's a real issue. So as always, we encourage you to be advocates for the school system. Charter schools are here, more coming online. We are having to make that investment. So what we're doing is trying to create an environment whereby students won't want to leave. They won't need to leave because they'll have the supports that are in place within our district. And so we are excited about the future. Our team is here. We're building our team out, and we feel good about the work. We know what's at stake. There's a sense of urgency to our work, and we feel like the most important piece is we think we have the people around the table to do the job. We think we have the principals in the buildings to do the work, and we think we have the partnerships that we can leverage in our community in order to move our district, not just to a D, to a C, but to a B, and even an A. And so that's our focus, that's our charge, and everyone understands it's about the work.
When you say won't sacrifice the classroom, does that mean that the funding will not change for the classroom?
When we look at cuts, $5 million is a lot of money. And so with that, we're not looking at necessarily going and saying we're going to cut, because you can cut a certain number of teachers and get to $5 million. That's not the approach that we can take, because that would directly affect what's happening, class size and things like that. Everything will be on the table as it relates to cuts, but the priority will be making sure that class sizes are not increased, making sure that all of the instructional materials, textbooks, resources are in the classroom. So we'll have to look in other places to make the cuts as opposed to those things that directly impact the classroom.
On the slide where you talk about the areas, superintendent, where it will be 4 areas, one of the areas, I know area 1 only has 1 feeder pattern, whereas the other areas superintendents have more.
We looked at the data. The data shows us that the number of students that are in that feeder pattern that are not performing where they need to perform is greater than in some of the other areas. So we think that, and again, there will be other, the area superintendent will have other responsibilities, but the resources in that area will need to be more intense than in some of the other areas. We look at it from equal, but that may not necessarily be equitable. So when you look at it, just because the numbers are the same, doesn't mean that they need the same kind of support. And we've done that, a lot. We've just said we're going to give everybody the equal amount, and that's really not, it doesn't get at what we need. Some people need a little more. Some schools need a little more.
So in that district, would that superintendent be one that's more rigorous, one that's more experienced?
All of the area superintendents will be experienced and capable of doing the job across the board. In order to be in the position, you'll have to demonstrate that you're capable. The position is assistant superintendent, and then parentheses on the job description is area. It's a shift in philosophy. And again, this is not going to cost the district anything. It's going to cost us less to run the organizational structure this way as opposed to some of the other, because we're able to cut some other positions and do some things to kind of streamline the work. Ultimately, I'm accountable. I'm accountable to the board. Board is, and the community is not going to look at an area superintendent. They're going to look at the interim superintendent, and my responsibility is to make sure that those individuals that are in those seats are providing the resources to the school so they can be successful.
And I'm trying to understand how the assistant superintendent would be set up as a model for success because of the vertical realignment of the organization. I heard you just say that it would not increase staffing, but where is their support for this model to really engage them in improvement?
Well, we've done feeder patterns for a long time. When we did feeder patterns, we saw great success. So even though, you know, we're in an urban environment and students move, for the most part, these same students from pre-K all the way through high school are in the same feeder pattern. So if the challenges that are at the elementary school are going to be the same challenges at the middle school and at the high school, if measurements, for example, is an issue in this feeder pattern, and my resources are focused just on elementary, these other feeder patterns may not be their issue. So we're just taking a general approach to support when that may not be the issue. In Jackson, we're uniquely different than other districts because we have 27,000 students. We don't have a peer when it comes to that. DeSoto County, but they're not an urban environment. Most districts in the state of Mississippi don't have more than 6,000, 7,000 students. One of these feeder patterns has that number of students. So a superintendent or a person who is a superintendent in those districts has to do all of this. They have to do all of the things that this area person, so they would have to have the capacity to support the elementary, the middle, the high school. The supports in a curriculum department, you may have 30 people in the department. If I call the curriculum department, they have to support, you know, all of the schools. But if I have 5 people with a unique ability to be able to support, I'm a math person, I can support elementary, middle, high school, as long as it's math. When we evaluate, then you're accountable. You're accountable for the same results that they get in those schools. You're held accountable for that. And the current structure doesn't allow you to necessarily do that. You can hold individuals accountable, but not necessarily for the data that comes back from a specific school.
Does each assistant superintendent operate or make independent decisions from the other?
They'll have flexibility because their issues may be different. So, of course, they'll have the flexibility to lead their area, but ultimately, just like now, you know, we have with our executive team now, we have weekly meetings, we collaborate, we have a district vision and mission, so that won't change. But within that feeder pattern, they'll have flexibility to say, well, I think we need to take these funds, these title dollars at our schools, we want to do this, as opposed to another feeder pattern. Right now, we have NISL, for example, is a group that we're working with on the state level. They're training. We've been in a contract with them. We're going to focus that group. They provide support for teachers, and they provide support for administrators. We had them all over the district. They were just kind of wherever we got. We're going to focus that work in the Forest Hill feeder pattern so we can better streamline our work through training administrators. We can get a better bang for our buck with having all of those resources in that one feeder pattern as opposed to spread all across the district. So those are the kinds of things that this structure will allow us to do. The question was, will we be able to still move administrators out of schools? The change will be in the reporting, who the community contacts, and we'll, of course, lay that out through the summer. We'll have a campaign to kind of discuss that. How the leadership is organized is the change, but the schools, other than who I pick up the phone and call when I have an issue, that's the only real difference. We've made several changes already, and we'll continue to do that, and are actively recruiting administrators. We actively seek the best candidates, but it's not that we're lowering our standard or we don't want the best. We engage the community, and we try at all times to get the best candidates for those positions that are open. And we'll continue to do that because I understand that if you don't have strong leadership and strong teachers, you don't move schools. So, I mean, we're not in the business of just trying to place people. I know that from experience. You have to have the right people on the bus to move the needle.
With the projection of losing more than $5 million, you guys have already started to lay out what's going to have to be cut?
Yes. We have to do that because we are, by law, we have to have a balanced budget. We have to take a balanced budget to the board. And we've identified, some areas, and again, some cuts will have to be made. The board has to approve the budget by June 30th. There's a public budget meeting that will take place in the summer, and so just kind of look for that. You can come out as a community person.
What success have y'all had with, and I know that there are other organizations, 100 Black Men, Man Up of Tougaloo, working in the school system. What success has that brought, working with students academically? And two, it seems like every 10 years, City of Jackson's population is decreasing.
It is decreasing. We've lost, and not just from charter schools. Now we're at about 26,000 plus. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, we were at about 28,000. So we're losing about 1,000 students a year. About 500 now to charter school, and probably another 500 to just people moving out of the community. So the city is shrinking, thus, of course, the school system is shrinking. As it relates to the after school network and working with those programs, yes, we're seeing great support from those areas. 100 Black Men, we've engaged with them. They're doing some very strategic work with us. They refocused the work that they were doing as a result of what we asked them for, and they're providing after school support in 13 of our schools. We feel confident that will be a heavy lift. Man Up, Dr. Wallace is working lockstep with Man Up. We're looking at restorative justice. We're looking for funders to support us in that area. So all of the partners, we're leveraging our collective impact. If the district is going in this direction and it's the right direction, we need everyone going in that direction and support us in going in that direction and make sure that your objective is the same objective, improving student achievement, making sure that we have safe and orderly schools, and making sure we have fiscal integrity. The question was, does the $5 million that we're losing have anything to do with the charter schools? We will lose $5 million from the budget, but we'll have to write a check to the charter schools on top of that. So if we lose 500 students and that's a cost of $1.5 million, then we'll lose the $5 million funding from the state. Then we'll have to write a check to the charter schools, individual charter schools, for a certain dollar amount. So that may take the budget up to $6.5 million. That is less. But what's important to understand about a charter school? This class has 20 students. This is a classroom, and this classroom here has 28 students. If 2 students leave, we still have to have this classroom. We still have to run buses. We still have to provide support. So even though we lose the money and people say, well, the money goes with the child, you've lost the child, so you don't have as much expenses, you still have the same expenses unless you lose just a huge number of students. So it adversely affects what we can and can't do. And the thing is, if the student comes back, the dollars don't come back. And many of the students are coming back, but the dollars don't return. Every decision that we make, we try to make it in a sense where it can be cost neutral. The decisions that you see here, to make the changes that we made, we had to cut something somewhere. We had to not replace positions. For example, in the past, we've had 2 deputy superintendents. We won't have 2. We'll only have 1. A student services person. We have a new operations person, so that person is going to be doing double duty. So we cut that slot, which is a substantial salary. So in that, we're making decisions that are cost neutral. We're trying to create positions that allow people to better support schools, which is what the schools are saying they need. And so every recommendation we make is to better support schools.
Thank you, Dr. Murray. Thank you, Dr. Murray, for that wealth of information regarding an update. This is our last lunch bunch until September 6th. Until then, please follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and check our website for updates on the good news coming out of the schools and community. Remember, we're together working to improve the lives of all children. Enjoy the rest of your day and your summer. Thank you.